If you want an inside look into what it's like to be a consultant, you've come to the right place. The Consultants Council provides guidance and best practice recommendations from a consulting industry advisor, me. I'm Kelsey and I've spent the last 12 plus years at the intersection between consulting and technology across the healthcare and oil and gas industries. Initially serving as a healthcare IT system implementations and optimizations consultant, where I saw firsthand how the interpersonal challenges of teams and individuals led to conflict and delay. From there, I began weaving a foundation of high performance and self-awareness into my client engagements, which over the years has cultivated a strong approach for developing high performance outcomes, which that's central to all the consulting work I take on. I've had the privilege of working with organizations across the country to solve their toughest challenges and advance their strategic initiatives, while also supporting the growth and development of multiple consulting firms along the way, advising them on how they can successfully grow and increase their long-term performance trajectory. Because of my consulting industry career, I've experienced the gamut of firm cultures, environments, engagements, and industry intricacies. I actually made principal at Accenture when I was 27, when the firm I'd helped grow and develop was acquired. After which point I went out on my own and founded Kelsey Consulting, a firm focused on cultivating high-performing organizations, teams, and individuals. And even still, I'm highly sought after to join or assist some of the largest and most prominent consulting organizations in the industry. So, if you're ready to decide that consulting is right for you, let's dig in. So, before you decide that consulting is right for you, do you really even know what consulting is? To read the actual definition of it from the dictionary, it means to be engaged in the business of giving expert advice to people working in a specific field. Now, I know there's a lot of thoughts around the types of consulting that are of value, but there's actually a tremendous array of different types of consulting organizations. Now, you've got your traditional consulting firms that are in the strategy field. That's really what encompasses that management consulting approach to solving business challenges and to being able to provide guidance and advisory support for organizations as they take on new markets, take on new initiatives, consider their performance. And then you segue into firms that might do financial advisory, tax, audit, restructuring. There's marketing consulting firms, HR consulting firms, recruiting, IT, firms that will do vendor system selections and implementations, digital transformation. There's also staff augmentation firms. And then across all of those different areas, you've got organizations that are broad in their focus, or you have organizations that are deep in their focus that are really focused on specific industries. And so you've likely heard of some of the major firms. There's MBB, which is McKinsey and Company, Bain and Company, as well as Boston Consulting Group. And those are kind of the three traditional management consulting firms that focus on that strategy consulting. When organizations have tough issues, they bring them in order to devise strategies for how to move forward. That said, those firms oftentimes don't get as into the weeds on implementing the strategies and executing upon what they've recommended. So it's a very specific area of focus. Beyond that, there's also the big four firms, so KPMG, PwC, EY, as well as Deloitte. And then there's also Accenture, which is technically the largest consulting firm in the world. All of those firms are kind of focused across industries. So they've got a wide range of skills and services that they render. They're very large organizations, and as a result, you can be really specific in your skill set, or you can be more of a generalist. And then you get into more of the boutique consulting firms. You've got Alvarez & Marsal, Slalom, Oliver Wyman, Booz Allen Hamilton, LEK Consulting, Capgemini. The list goes on, right? Because if there's there's ways that people need help. There's firms that are going to be interested in providing solutions for those organizations. And so you don't actually have to go work for a firm to be a consultant. There's many actually who elect to go out on their own, whether they form their own firm the way I did, or they elect to work as a sole proprietor. Maybe they work as a subcontractor for larger firms. So there's a lot of different ways that you can choose to enter the consulting world, but it is wise that if it's something that you're interested in pursuing, you spend some time doing some due diligence around the different types of firms, the cultures that they offer, the types of projects and engagements and organizations that they work with. Because that's going to help you refine your list of where it might be that you want to enter the consulting realm. Maybe you're very specific in a focused industry. You've got a skill set because you're coming from the industry world, and you know that you really enjoy solving a specific type of problem. Then go looking at what firms are best in that area is going to help you evaluate where you might want to be. All right, so if you're interested in actually going to work for a firm, there are a lot of benefits of joining an organization, especially if you're, getting right into consulting, you haven't tackled that before, it's new for you. Learning how to just be a consultant is a very specific skill set. It is different from being directly employed for an organization. And the reason I say that is because, while yes, you're working for a consulting firm, you are typically on active engagements with your clients working to solve their problems. And as a result, when you're working with clients, your relationship dynamic is very different than when you're working with others at your own organization. You have to be very mindful of the value that you're delivering to your clients and to the relationship that you have with those clients, where you kind of have an arm's length approach to where it's very professional, but it's not that of a comrade where you're employed by the same organization. And so learning how to navigate that interaction and learning that from a firm where you're actually getting to work with others to see how they conduct themselves, how they interact with others, how they lead their client engagements is a good entry point into the consulting industry before trying to go out on your own and navigate the specifics, trying to figure out contracts, engagement structures and styles. Working with a firm really provides you a lot of that insight, that training, that guidance as you're getting started. In addition, working with a firm provides stability. They're able to source your client engagements for you. You're not out there trying to identify your own activities that you're going to be, focusing on. You oftentimes are going to have a team structure that you're working on. You're going to be working with others, most likely, on your client engagements and projects. And that makes things a lot more fun, and also gives you others to learn from. In addition, it's going to provide structure, it's going to provide framework, it's going to provide a career path that allows you to advance. So those are just some of the benefits of working with a firm. I think some of the other benefits that you would see working for a large organization is because they've been around for a while, they've been consulting, and helping clients in a number of different capacities. They have a stability to them. They also have a framework of the type of work that they provide and engage with. And there's a lot of opportunity to work with organizations, across the country, across the world, on different challenges. And especially as you're getting started and, maybe you don't have a specific industry focus yet or a specific area of skill yet, getting a vantage point of a lot of different projects and engagements right out of the gate can really help you decide where you want to spend your focus, where you want to develop your knowledge base. On the flip side, going out on your own certainly also offers its share of benefits and drawbacks. Going out on your own is certainly risky. Being able to sell and land your own client engagements in order to continue to have active income is certainly a challenge, especially if you're just getting started and you don't already have a track record of working with different organizations and have a network that you can call upon. That certainly takes time to develop. It's also not something I would recommend if you don't already have a very specific targeted skill set and capability area. So if you're new to the industry, if you're new to rendering services, starting out on your own is going to be much more challenging because you're trying to learn all the specifics of not just the consulting industry, but what value would you be rendering to clients? So while you might have an area that you focused on previously, if you haven't learned how to consult around that area to actually provide that as a billable skill instead of just as an industry focus, working with others and learning how to develop that can really help as you're getting started. So I definitely think going out on your own is only going to be right for you if you already have a very set skill that you're able to market and sell that's going to render value to your clients. Because ultimately, the most important component of consulting that I think a lot of people sometimes forget in pursuit of revenue is, are you providing value? Are you solving problems? Are you providing solutions? Are you rendering value to your clients? And if you're not, then what business do you have being in consulting? So, is consulting right for you? It's not a question I can answer directly for you. You've got to evaluate, what does the industry look like? Do you have the skills that are necessary to be successful in consulting? And are you ready for the intensity of what the consulting industry requires of the people that are a part of it? So, consulting is a difficult industry to be successful in. And the reason for that is it's tough. The firms that you want to be working for that are doing well in the market have very high expectations for the individuals that they're going to hire, first and foremost. Secondly, their hours are oftentimes very strenuous, especially as you're coming upon deadlines with your clientele. It's not uncommon to have just really long work weeks. When people are traveling to their clients, that then compounds the stress of the job, needing to be on an airplane either Sunday or Monday, come back on Thursday, Friday, be away from family, friends, your own personal interests and pursuits. That's a challenge that also has to be navigated. Being a road warrior might look glamorous from the outside, but as someone who was in 2 to 4 cities a week, every week at one point in my career, and then have traveled extensively to other clients as well. Fortunately, that's tapered back due to the pandemic. That's a grueling lifestyle. And, being away from home, constantly eating out, not having a consistent schedule is very, very difficult and demanding. In addition, there's a lot of heavy expectations for performance and the ability to deliver upon the services that are being rendered. So both from your client and from your internal teams, that can create a lot of stress. And so evaluating if that's the type of environment you excel in is a really important thing to ask yourself and consider before looking to get into consulting. It's also certainly something that, as you're evaluating firms, identifying what their corporate culture is like will help you be a lot happier down the road. There's certainly firms that have a much higher work-life balance perspective, and they focus on that and they make that a priority. And as a result, they end up having higher retention rates with their employees because they respect those individuals' personal lives and other commitments. Whereas other firms, might not have that same weighting of how they look at balance. And so that's certainly something to evaluate. In addition, as you're looking to determine if consulting is right for you, I think it's Wise to remember that consulting actually is a very small industry. Everyone kind of knows everyone, or if they don't know everyone, they certainly know enough individuals that they can kind of, get background feedback on those that might be choosing to apply or to work with their firm, especially through the years as people jump from organization to organization. So I do think it's very important to remember that the relationships that you build in consulting today can support you a decade or more from now into the future. But as a result, because it's a small industry, it's wise to be aware that consulting also attracts a certain personality type. Driven type A individuals often gravitate towards consulting due to that fast-paced nature, due to the ability to affect change with multiple organizations, and the ability to establish and cultivate credibility and knowledge in specific areas. That's appealing to those that like a faster lifestyle. But it does also attract those that can be a bit more egocentric. People who are comfortable doing what it takes to get ahead. Because of the lifestyle and the fact that it is fast-paced, it attracts people that don't always want to take the time to slow down and listen internally, who might want to repress and escape their emotions, people who are addicted to their own stress hormone. I know that, I've been there. That constant roller coaster of the consulting lifestyle attracts a individual that likes that type of stressed environment. But that's also why burnout rates can be very, very high for consultants, because those very driven people are used to pushing themselves to the limit in order to get ahead, in order to succeed, in order to achieve. And they don't oftentimes necessarily look at their balance and how they're maintaining a healthy equilibrium. As a formerly burned out consultant, I can attest to that. That is absolutely accurate. You kind of get a natural high when you close a new client deal, or when you do a great job on a project, you get that next promotion. But at what cost? At what expense? Do you have a personal life? Do you have other hobbies, interests, things that you want to be pursuing? Because oftentimes those can get put on the back burner in order to get ahead in your job and your career. Is that right for you? Do you want to do that? Might be a time and a place for it in your life. But recognizing that it's not always sustainable is wise going in. Knowing that, I'm going to spend a few years doing this, and then I'm going to exit to something else. It's going to let me pursue other interests. Know that going in, that it is strenuous and difficult. I heard someone once describe the consulting industry as the industry with the most narcissists, because who else hates themselves enough to subject themselves to constant travel, a challenging social and family life, little time to develop their own interests, while also thinking highly enough of themselves to go advise others on things that they might even be Googling before they talk with their clients. And while I think that that's maybe a bit unfair of a description of the consulting industry, I've had the misfortune of knowing some people that fit that description. I've also had the privilege of working with some of the best and the brightest individuals who I'm so appreciative for the knowledge and the insights and the experience I've had from working with them. So that goes back to, it's very, very important to evaluate the firms that you are considering. A job interview is not just about a firm deciding if they want you. You should be evaluating, deciding if you want them, and making sure that it's the right culture for you, making sure that it focuses on the right things that you value, and that it's going to offer you the opportunities to advance and excel in your career the way you're looking to. I think those are all very important things to know going into consulting with your eyes wide open. Again, it's not an easy industry. It takes a tremendous amount of work, and it takes a constant ability to continue to refine and develop your skills and talents, because the knowledge base is always evolving and changing. And in order to be able to provide the best insights and recommendations and advice and guidance to your clients, you've got to be on that cutting edge, which does sometimes mean using search engines. Don't underestimate them. Staying up to speed is wise. But constantly make sure you're growing, you're evolving, you're developing your talent and your skill. So I think those are kind of some of the big things that I would recommend being on the lookout for as you're deciding if consulting is right for you, knowing that it is a strenuous environment. Some of that is eased a bit by the fact that firms aren't requiring in-office presence as much right now, and certainly not as much travel. But as that picks up in the future, don't be surprised when now your work week is getting that much more chaotic as you're traveling. That said, though, there's firms that have local models where they don't expect their individuals to travel. Slalom is a good example of that. Alvarez and Marcel has a more regional model. So if you're traveling kind of in your region typically. So those are things to look out for and evaluate as you're deciding if consulting actually is right for you. So if you're ready to work hard and operate in a fast-paced environment where you may spend considerable time making slide decks to present recommendations and findings, true story, you will need to up your PowerPoint skills and quite possibly your Excel skills, word writing skills. Maybe consulting is right for you. I personally have loved it. Like I said, I've spent my career at the intersection of some form of consulting before going out on my own, and then now developing advice, recommendations for other consultants. I firmly believe in the consulting industry, and I actually hate that it gets such a bad rap because I think it serves a very valuable perspective in the market for clients. It's very difficult as an organization to affect change from within. It's much easier as an outsider to be able to come in, quickly assess and evaluate what might be occurring, define and develop appropriate process improvement steps or a path forward, quickly implement those, and then move on. Organizations and internals within organizations are oftentimes much more likely to respond to change and new recommendations and guidance when they're paying for it and when it's coming from an industry advisor who has considerable experience with other organizations and has seen things work well at other locations. And so for me, I've always just really enjoyed that. I like quickly assessing and evaluating what's wrong, and I like coming up with solutions for a path forward. And I find that kind of fun is not something that everyone enjoys, but being able to cut through the challenges, the politics at an organization, what barriers they might have facing them is much easier as an outsider. And for me, I've really always enjoyed the fact that in consulting, I'm able to work with a wide range of organizations at any given time, and certainly across the path of my career, which I find much better informs my awareness of what's occurring and how things can continuously be improved. Because now I've gotten exposure to so many different ways of operating and doing things. And so I love that environment. I love making things better for my clients. I love building trusted relationships with my clients based on a mutual knowledge and understanding that we're working to make things better. I really don't think that it would be tough to derive more professional joy from an interaction rather than being able to make your client operate better, have happier, more engaged employees, bring in more revenue, be able to offer more services. I mean, like it's really neat to be able to drive that type of high performance and to make things function more effectively. So consulting may be right for you. I encourage you to look into it. Do your research into firms, do your research into the types of consulting that are out there, and decide, take a hard look at yourself and say, is this an industry where I think I can be successful? Is this an industry where I can excel and advance? Is this an industry where I'm comfortable justifying my bill rate and my value every hour? Important things to consider. But if you do decide to enter into consulting, I wish you much success, and I'm excited to hear how it goes for you. And I hope that the Consultants Council can be a helpful place for you to come for guidance and recommendations.